Welcome, everybody. 6:02 p.m. on October 26th. Well, that's Eastern Time, U.S. John Aravosis here in Washington, D.C. for the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show I do Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine and also, as long as there's news, the latest news from Israel. A lot of Ukraine news tonight, some Israeli news, or I should say Israel news, not Israeli. Let me get TikTok rolling here on my iPad, and then in a minute, we will start. Introduce yourselves, say where you're from. And this gives people time to arrive. So we'll wait a minute or two for folks to log in, or not log in, but at least get the notice. I will have a little iced tea, because always good. Hey, Evie, I don't think there's any overly bad news today. Not really. There's a lot of Ukraine news, actually. Not a ton of Israel news, because not much has happened. I mean, they're still fighting, but there's not any big breakthroughs. Anyway, hello all. How we doing? TikTokers, welcome. Trying to have more of my iced tea because I'm tired again. Hey, Callum. Spoke too soon about what? Hey, Shane. Shootings in Maine? Oh, yeah. Is my microphone being... Oh, my microphone isn't working because my TikTok microphone wasn't on my lapel. How is it now? Is that better? What did Callum just send me and say your microphone's not working? I'm going to guess that's what Callum said. Oh, Callum was just saying I was running late. Sometimes I'm like taking the last minute. Well, because like I'm getting my notes together. I'm printing them off. I, of course, printed the notes, didn't go and pick them up. So they were on the other side of the room. It's like thank you, Jetta. And actually, I was trying to get my latest auctions up on Discord. So I've only got 3 of them up so far, but I was trying to get them up before the show. So they'd be up, but there's only 3. So what do you do? Because they do take a little bit of time. Thank you, Happy Beach. Sort of because I got to go through and edit the photos and put them all together as one thing. And right, it's make work that takes longer than you'd think. So anyway, thank you, Martin. This is my homemade shirt, so to speak. Thank you, Chazak and Annie. Thank you for the eyes. I finally found the eyes on there. But yeah, they've got I had to dye my own clothes because I wanted red shirts and couldn't find red shirts. So thank you, Big Hawk. So this is a red shirt I dyed in a big pot on my stove because I wanted red. I like red shirts. I think they look good. So it's like, what do you do? Anyway, hey guys, we'll wait another half minute or so and then I'll jump in. Thank you, Sexseed. Thank you, Pedro. Oh boy. Oh, hey guys. Was Marion with us already? Wow. Your brother lives in Maine? Ugh. God, yeah, I don't blame your brother. I'd have my rifles nearby too. Thank you, Allie. I like the new green eyes. It's a good Halloween thing. They should have done them earlier. Saint-Jérôme, Quebec. Nice to meet you, André. Or enchanté, je dois dire. Oh, anyway. Hey, who's Crazy American in Germany? Anyway. All right, guys. I think I can start. Thank you, Eva, there. All right. I know I'm a red-shirted Trekkie. I am a Trekkie, actually. All right, guys, let's get rolling. So welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is my nightly show I do Monday to Friday. We call it the Aravosis Report. Basically, taking my background in journalism, foreign policy. I've also worked for international organizations, the World Bank, the United Nations, done a lot of politics, too, that I wanted to sort of take that and help people on TikTok and Twitter and YouTube and all those social media perhaps understand the news better, help you guys sort of understand it from a perspective of somebody who's been doing politics for decades here in Washington, D.C. The way the show works is I will go first and present the news. Second half of the show, take your guys' questions, and we'll go from there. So the way it works, too, is what I was going to say. Oh, yeah. You for questions, second half of the show, unless you do a super chat question on YouTube, because that's a way, it's a nice way of supporting my work and getting my attention. So if people do super chat questions, think of Conquerunga. I will always get to that as the next thing. Otherwise, and I will always get to super chat questions as a thank you. Otherwise, if you guys could also keep the gifts coming on TikTok, those are really helpful. I do this for free. I've been doing it since the war broke out in Ukraine. We're talking all the way back to March of 2022, over a year and a half ago. And in order to do it, I got to pay the bills. So you guys have been very generous. That's helped me pay the bills, and I'm able to do the show. So that is what your gifts are getting. So I appreciate it. Keep them coming. Thank you, adventurers. Cliff Wolf says Hamas met with Putin. They did. I'm going to get to that. I guess I could I can start with that since Cliff did that as a first super chat question. And I'm starting with Israel anyway. Then we're going to talk about Ukraine. There's actually a lot of Ukraine news. So Cliff notes that Hamas went to Moscow to meet with Vladimir Putin today, which is very interesting. Hamas, you guys know, they're a terrorist group. They also run the Palestinian territory of Gaza. Thank you, Velika, and Left to See. And they are the guys who invaded Israel 2 weeks ago and committed the slaughter of 1,400 Israelis. Took, thank you, Courtney. Now they're saying, I think 224 hostages is the latest number that Hamas took. And they went to Moscow. Well, and Israel's, of course, not happy, but it's kind of interesting because the Russians and the Soviets before them were longtime supporters of the Palestinians. The Americans were on the side of Israel. The Soviet Union was on the side of the Palestinians. And, it was sort of the typical Cold War confrontation that we have in other areas in the Middle East. What's interesting about this one is, as soon as the terrorist attack happened, thank you, Kronos, for the Halloween gift. As soon as the terrorist attack happened, the Russians put out a fake conspiracy theory that, the Ukrainians actually provided weapons to Hamas and they sold them to them, and they're actually secret supporters of Hamas. And, so it's the Ukrainians who blew up Israel, this kind of garbage, right? Thank you, Alex. Now, mind you, it's the Russians putting it out there. So the Russians are basically saying, and the Russians, by the way, refuse to call Hamas a terrorist group, but the Russians are basically saying, right, those guys are terrorists. Thank you, Marcy. And the crazy is, the crazy Ukrainians supported them. Well, today, the Russians met with Hamas in Moscow and with Putin, which means they're obviously big supporters of Hamas. So why would they 2 weeks ago say, those Ukrainians are helping Hamas? Isn't that terrible? This is what I said about how everything that comes out of the Russian government's mouth is a lie. It just doesn't matter. They will, thank you, B. Smith, they will throw enough garbage against the wall again and again and again, lie after lie after lie, just waiting to see what sticks. So anyway, that's what's going on. They're meeting Hamas. The timing isn't, why is Putin meeting with Hamas in Moscow today? I think the timing doesn't look good. It makes Putin look, like he's embracing terrorists, which he is. Even the Palestinian defenders, they're the fringe ones who defend what Hamas did. But thank you, Kronos. But most of the people defending the Palestinians against the Israelis will tell you Hamas doesn't represent the Palestinians. So even those guys will not, embrace Hamas. Russia's embracing them. They're embracing them right after Hamas killed 1,400, not just Israelis, but Israelis and foreigners in one day. It's weird. I think what's going on is this is Putin's effort to kind of stir the pot. It's Putin's effort to kind of poke America in the eye and go, hey, Joe Biden, look what I'm doing. You think you're going to be good with Israel. I'm going to meet with Hamas. Now you have to wonder what I'm doing with Hamas, right? Thank you, Martin. I think that's what Putin's doing. Now, I'm not convinced Putin's going to do much. But thank you, Martin. I do like that's really cool. The eye stuff. That is very cool. I'm not sure Putin's going to do much with Hamas, but it's interesting that he chose to meet with them. But I think that's what's going on. He's everything is about turmoil, chaos. As much chaos as he can sow, that's what he's going to sow. Thank you, Martin, again for the eyes. Lisa, I don't know if you meant to have a question there or whether that was just a nice donation. If you meant to have a question, feel free just to write the question up. And one of the mods can highlight it for me in case I miss it, but thank you for that. Ernie, thank you for that, for the hearts. Let me get rolling here. So the rest of it. Israel had an incursion into Gaza last night, but they did not invade yet. They went in, did something, God knows what, and came out. Sky News' Middle East correspondent, Alistair Bunkle. Thank you, Happy Beach. Very generous gift and very, very, very cool gift as well. Sky News' Middle East correspondent said that he was told that the operation was somewhere between a battalion and a brigade in size, which is very non-specific, especially as those military units are vary in structure. But I think we're looking at somewhere around 1,000 Israeli soldiers that went into Gaza last night. They have now all left. Incursions like last night are not just useful for taking out Hamas positions, but they are valuable intelligence gathering operations to map out the ground, assess the resistance, and scale the task ahead. So that's what Israel did last night. I just told you about Hamas visiting Moscow. Cliff's question. The this was interesting. So a little news about American troops today. U.S. troops were attacked at least 12 times in Iraq and 4 times in Syria in the past week by Iran-affiliated groups, according to the Pentagon. Some 900 troops are deploying or have been deployed to the Middle East from the U.S. Iran is going to keep playing games. They're going to keep, oh, hey, Noah, good to see you back. They're going to keep not attacking us directly, but using their surrogates to attack us, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Hezbollah, whether it's these other militant terrorists they've got in Syria, Iraq. The Biden administration, I heard today, which really kind of pissed me off, just kind of really pissed me off. But the Biden administration today made some kind of a comment about, or at least told the media, that they were kind of holding back. Oh, there you go, Lisa. They are kind of holding back on responding to Iran's attacks on our bases because they're being careful about this blowing up into a larger war. And you know what that made me think of? It made me think of Ukraine. Thank you, Noah. It made me totally think of Ukraine. Iran, basically through its surrogates, but it's Iran, has attacked U.S. troops 12 times in Iraq and Syria. Okay? We know 20 troops were injured. One guy died in a false alarm. 4 of the troops, I believe, they think may have had traumatic brain injury, although they're back on the duty now. And our response from the U.S. government is, well, we're trying to kind of be cautious and not respond in a big boom kind of way with Iran. Thank you, Jonathan, because we don't want this to become a bigger war. That is exactly what happened in Ukraine. That is exactly what happened in Ukraine. I mean, that is, we sat there and we said, ooh, let's not give too many weapons to Ukraine. Let's not give the good weapons. Let's go slow because we don't want it to turn into a bigger war. We're worried about antagonizing Russia, right? And now we're doing the same BS with Iran. I mean, if Iran, through its surrogates, attacked U.S. troops 14 times, we should be responding pretty forcefully to that. I get it. Having said that, I get it because, we do have to be the big boys and girls in the room. We've got to be the mature ones who don't necessarily want us to get into a war with Iran in the Middle East. But at the same time, I just feel like we're signaling. I feel like we're signaling weakness. It worries me. Lisa did have a question. Thank you, Lisa. How close are we to a world war? Family's worried. I don't think we're close to a world war. I think the Middle East, much more so than Ukraine in some ways, I think the Middle East has a greater potential to expand into a larger war. Israel and the U.S. are like this. The U.S. will defend Israel, period. I mean, the Republicans absolutely positively will, and the Democrats are very good on Israel. Republicans even better because the Republicans have kind of this crazy evangelical element to it, and the evangelicals need Israel to survive, so Jesus comes back in the second coming. If Israel isn't around, Jesus can't come back, and then they don't tell you that when Jesus comes back, they kill all the Jews. Well, 2/3 of the Jews they kill, and 1/3 of the Jews who become, they let the Jews, I kid you not, they're going to give the Jews the option when Jesus will come back, and they're going to give the Jews the option to become Christians. And if they become Christians, they go to heaven. And if they don't become Christians, they go to hell, to purgatory for eternity. And 2/3 of the world's Jews will not accept Christianity and go to hell according to the second coming. This is why conservative Republicans, especially the evangelical crowd, are so pro-Israel, because they Google it. It's crazy. They need Israel to exist for the second coming of Christ. It's crazy. In any case, so the Republicans are super duper supportive of Israel, and in part because the evangelicals, the religious right, won't let them not be. Democrats are also very supportive. We've got a loud wing of the party that is very pro-Palestinian and very anti-Israel, but it's a wing. It's not the majority of the party. My point here, getting back to what you're saying about World War, the U.S. will defend Israel, absolutely positively. That's why I think there is definitely the chance of the U.S. getting dragged in. If Israel is having a problem beating whatever it is fighting, the U.S. will get more and more involved. The U.S. will not let Israel lose this war. Thank you, John S. If Iran enters the war more forcefully, the U.S. will get involved. If Hezbollah invades from the north in Lebanon, I think the U.S. won't have a choice but to get involved. I don't know that means putting troops on the ground, but I'm just telling you, be prepared for the fact that the U.S. and Israel are like this, and the U.S. will not. I mean, way more than Ukraine. And by the way, Biden has been very good about Ukraine. I have some complaints, but he's been very good supporting Ukraine. Israel, compared to Ukraine, as far as how the U.S. supports Israel, way more than Ukraine. So anyway, thank you, Andy. I'm not expecting a world war at this point. I will say that could America get dragged into a larger conflict? Yes. But does Russia want to get into another war? Thank you, Kronos. Does Russia want to get into another war? No. Russia's having a hard enough time in Ukraine. They don't want to get dragged into a war here. China has no interest, I think. Thank you, user 844. I don't think China has any interest in getting involved in a war in the Middle East. So you kind of get into this, and I will say this too. Russia, I think, is still confused as to how far we'll go in Ukraine. In Israel, Russia should not be confused. Russia must know that the U.S. will absolutely positively defend Israel to the end. And with that in mind, that should preempt Russia actually getting involved. So I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. Anyway. All right. Let's continue. Speaking at the UN, the Iranian foreign minister said, "I say frankly to the American statesmen who are now managing the genocide in Palestine that we do not welcome an expansion of the war in the region, but if the genocide in Gaza continues, they will not be spared from this fire." He basically said, if Israel doesn't stop attacking Gaza, Iran's going to enter the war. Well, as I said, if Iran enters the war, we're entering the war. And I got news for you. Iran can cause a lot of damage. We can cause more damage. I don't think the Iranians want us entering the war. If it comes to it, again, this is pretty scary stuff. But if it comes to it, thank you, Kronos, we'll attack Iran if it comes to it. If we have to, if they attack us. And again, we're bigger than they are. We don't want a bigger war. But Iran is doing what Russia likes to do. Iran is going, burp, 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 burp. Let's scare everybody into not supporting. Burp, 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 burp. Well, I don't know if Russia's going to back Iran. Russia will back Iran. They may give them weapons and things, but Russia's not going to war with America over Iran. That's not going to happen. I very seriously doubt 22 Americans were killed yesterday. Unless you got a good source for it, that sounds like bullshit. Yeah, you're a troll. You're a troll. Yeah, where did they die? Where there aren't even Americans on the ground there. So where did they die? I mean, in Iraq and Syria, but right? Give me a break. David O'Brien, super chat question. Do you think Hamas has ISIS sympathizers, supporters influencing their actions? Hamas actions were very and you must have had some other end to that. Okay. I am not the expert on Hamas versus Hezbollah versus ISIS, Daesh, in terms of the interconnectivity there, especially with ISIS. So I don't quite know how to answer that. I would not be surprised if there are, we know Hezbollah, certainly Hezbollah and Hamas are both Iranian supported. So that, that's a given. But I would not be surprised that there are sympathies with ISIS. Right, that's not going to be, and to the degree Islamic State, and to the degree that they can sow some mayhem, I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I'm not sure kind of what your question is. I'm not really sure about the ties between the two, but yeah, if you want to you don't have to pay for it, but if you want to write a little bit more on what you meant. Also, your thing got cut off. Hamas's actions were very Oh, I know what you were going to say. You were going to say Hamas's actions were very much like ISIS. Yes. Thank you, user 2119. Yes. A lot of folks have been saying that basically just the ferocity of what we have now learned about what Hamas did, throwing grenades at children and parents. They did in fact behead some people. We now know some babies were beheaded. We don't quite know if the babies were beheaded. Okay. Sorry. If Deb is here, cover your ears. But we don't quite know if the babies were beheaded with a knife or whether the Hamas guys fired a rocket-propelled grenade at a baby and blew its head off. That was literally the defense people are putting out there. That was the defense. That was the defense. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I was going to say, but the actions are very ISIS-like. Doesn't mean ISIS is influencing them because it doesn't take much. You look at ISIS and you say, look what they're doing. Let's do the same thing. It doesn't, you don't really need ISIS to necessarily be in cahoots with you for you just to say, you know what, they behead people. We can do it too. European leaders are calling for the EU actually are calling for the establishment of humanitarian corridors and pauses to deliver aid to Gaza. This is according to the final draft of a text to be approved at a summit in Brussels today. The U.S. and the U.K. are on board with a humanitarian pause. Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for the gift. This was the proposal that the U.S. had at the United Nations. Oh, we're getting a little bit of a sunset. Nothing too huge tonight, but a little bit of color there. Thank you, Louis. This is the proposal the U.S. had at the United Nations yesterday or the day before that the Russians, the Chinese, and the United Arab Emirates shot down, but was to have humanitarian pauses. And the idea was the U.S. and the UK do not support a ceasefire because a ceasefire, thank you, Kronos, would be telling Israel, okay, Hamas declared war on you, don't respond. Thank you, Ellie. And that's not the way it works. So the U.S. does not support a ceasefire, but a humanitarian pause would be, okay, let's stop the fighting for 3 days. Let's stop the fighting for 5 days. Let's let the trucks all be able to come in. Let's be able to evacuate people. Let's be able to move people from the hospital safely. But right, I mean, you pause the fighting for a set period of time. You promise you won't blow anybody up. And for those 5 days, nothing, let's say I'm just making up 5. Nothing militarily happens. And then afterwards, the war starts again. That's what it looks like the European Union is now going to be supporting. Sky News reports that another aid convoy has entered the Rafah crossing. That's the crossing in southern Gaza hang on a second. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that's the southern crossing. Here's Gaza, here's Israel, here's Egypt, here's Gaza. I believe Rafah is the crossing that's down here in southern Gaza. And another aid convoy went through. 12 trucks or lorries went through, according to humanitarian organization Palestinian Red Crescent. By the way, anybody who didn't know, it's kind of interesting. You may be familiar with the Red Cross, right? Oh, see, now I'm getting a good sunset. This is good. Actually, you guys are getting it really good on TikTok. Getting a really nice sunset tonight. I love the sunsets in the fall. They're always beautiful sunsets. Hey, Jay Money. Good to see you on TikTok. We just get the best sunsets in the fall. I mean, not just in Washington, but in Chicago area too. Just beautiful sunsets. I'm a big sucker for the sky and stars and sunsets and everything else. Any case, the convoy that made it into Gaza was made up of 12 trucks or lorries. Oh, I was going to tell you, Palestinian Red Crescent. Thank you, Alex and Dexter. So kind of interesting. The Red Cross, I assume you've all heard of the Red Cross, right? Well, and it was funny when I first learned this years ago because I never thought of it this way, but it makes sense. In Arab countries, I should say in Islamic countries, in Muslim countries, the Red Cross is called the Red Crescent because a cross is a Christian symbol. And it never hit me until I learned that years ago. I was like, I never thought of Red Cross as being a cross. Jesus or what? It just didn't hit me that way. So very interesting. So this came from the Red Crescent, which is the group that works in Muslim countries, and water, food, medicines, and medical supplies are on board the trucks. Should it enter Gaza? Wait a minute. Oh, I see. It's entered the crossing. It's entered the crossing where it's being held and inspected. Okay, so the concern is whether it will be able to enter Gaza at all. Thank you, Makob, Marsha, TBI, Chris. Thank you, guys. I always love the green eyes. So yes, so the lorry, the truck made it to the crossing and now it's being inspected. That's what's going on. Should it enter, the convoy would bring the total number of trucks received to 74 since October 7th, which is the day that Hamas attacked. But this is still far short of the 100 trucks a day the UN estimates would be needed to meet essential needs of the locals. All right, that's all I've got a lot of Ukraine news. That's all I've got for Israel and Gaza and Hamas and Palestine and whatever for the day. It's hard to know what to call it because in the old days, we would call this the Arab-Israeli conflict. That's just what you called it, the Arab-Israeli conflict. But it gets kind of confusing because are we talking about Arabs? We're talking about Palestinians, but we're talking about Hamas. But the Palestinians say Hamas doesn't represent us, although it does. They did vote for it once upon a time. And polls show 45 to 50% of Palestinians support Hamas. But in terms of what do you call the conflict, it's very confusing, right? Because you could say Israeli-Hamas war, I guess, it's even that's a little weird because okay, first of all, because you're saying a country versus a government. Why wouldn't you say a country versus a country, right? Because Israel's the same thing. Not every Israeli voted for Netanyahu. So is it Israel versus Hamas, or is it Netanyahu's party versus Hamas? Right? Do you get what? It's weird. To thank you, John, has to split it that way. You know, I mean, if you're going to say Israel, you'd say Gaza, right? Right? Because you're talking about states. It's weird. It's just weird. In any case, I'm just putting it out there. Okay, I'm going to start with Ukraine in a second. Remember, guys, if you can help, by the sunset, I'm loving this now. Woo! Beautiful. We got really good with the sunset tonight. And my windows are sort of tinted to cover the sunlight a little bit. So it's going to be, it's just gorgeous. It's going to be way nicer than that outside too. Oof, love it. Oof. All right. I'm going to like move this it's hard to move. There we go. I'll do this so you guys can see the sunset on TikTok a little bit. All right. You guys can see it there. Anyway. So one of the ways to support my work is I've got memberships out there. If you guys are willing to help out, in addition to the gifts, and please do keep the gifts coming on TikTok and YouTube. As I said, I do this for free. I've been covering the war in Ukraine since the war broke out a year and like 10 months ago. I've now been covering Israel and Hamas and Gaza and the Palestinians since that broke out as well. I do this full time. I pay my bills, not out of my pocket because it's not like I'm rich, but I pay my bills with the donations you guys give me, which allows me to do this full time. So if you like my work, if you like my reporting, like my analysis, please consider supporting me if you can. The gifts are frankly great on TikTok and YouTube, so please keep the gifts coming. But also I've got Ko-fi. Anybody who knows Ko-fi, you guys can find the link on the screen. Ko-fi, you guys can find it via my profile on TikTok. Oh, thank you, Flower Lady. You are always, I'm almost feeling bad. You're always so generous, Flower Lady. Thank you. I feel bad. Anyway, I'm glad you do it. Please keep it coming, but thank you. Thank you, Chris, as well. That's a very nice one, too. So you can find the Ko-fi link and other links on TikTok in my profile. Look for the Linktree link, click it, and you'll find everything. Our fundraiser we're doing in Ukraine. Thank you, Deep and Tick. You'll find my Ko-fi link. You'll find my Patreon, my Discord, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, all sorts of different things. So check it out if you can. YouTube as well. You guys can become monthly subscribers like Carlos and some of the others that have the green names. Chris, who we got, Dark Irish. I know Annie is there. Sometimes Ann, a number of folks. Those are all the monthly subscribers. You guys can subscribe lots of different ways. Twitch, you name it. Anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate it. All right, let's keep going here. So Ukraine. I am going to make a final pitch for the fundraiser we've been doing for, thank you, user, for the fundraiser we've been doing for Ukrainian drone training. Our goal is to raise $1,971. Thank you, Mike. 100% of the money is going to Ukraine. Thank you, Bulford. I do not take any of it. In fact, we have you send it directly to my friend Vlad in Ukraine. He's working with the military folks, and basically, they've got a training school for drones. It changes location every 2 weeks so that the Russians won't bomb it. I mean, what do you do? It's scary stuff. And they train civilians and military in how to use drones so that they can fight the Russians, obviously, for intelligence, for everything else. And they need a couple drones. They need some motors. They need some controllers. They need $1,971 for this one school. We've already raised $1,777. If my math is correct, we need another $194. I would appreciate if you guys could help out. It's only $194 more. Your donations are literally going directly to help the war in Ukraine. I'm not taking a dime. Vlad's not taking a dime. Thank you, Randy. And you know exactly what it's going for. You're helping to buy drones and drone materials to make drones like motors and controllers to teach Ukrainian troops, but also Ukrainian civilians how to fight drone wars. If you can. Pro on drones, how do I help? I'm not sure, Rob. That's an interesting question. I don't know if you can contact me separately. I'm not sure. I can ask Vlad. I'm just not sure if there's a role for sort of people on the outside to help with that. Currently, we've just been trying to get people to help with money. But thank you, Annie. But if, I don't know. I mean, I can ask him. I can certainly ask him. He's sleeping now because it's Ukraine. So they're like 7 hours ahead of me. So they're probably 1:30 in the morning in Ukraine. But I can ask him and see. Nope. I already told you, this is for 2 drones, motors, controllers, lots of different equipment they need for the drones. It's for a bunch of different equipment because they make their own drones And then they're doing the trainings. Also, their first-person view drones, FPV drones, that's the training they're doing. And actually, 1,977. The drones actually are quite cheap. He walked me through the drones. The drones themselves are, I'd have to write it down, somewhere from a couple $100 to a little bit more for the drones that they're using. They're rather inexpensive drones that they're on purpose that they're doing. In any case, there you go. All right, guys, let me get rolling here. So, I'm sorry, the way you give. So the way you give. I'm not even telling you how to donate. On TikTok, you guys can go to my profile, click the Linktree link, click through, and the very first entry will tell you Vlad's PayPal info. You can go to PayPal and just copy or whatever, Vlad's PayPal, and just send the money to him directly. He's my friend in Ukraine, been working with him forever. My nephew's been working with him for like 7 years, totally trustworthy. So if you can do that, I appreciate it. For you guys, I will put Vlad's info up very quickly. That's Vlad's info. And then let me get rolling. So Ukraine, it is day 610 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Let's talk a little bit about the Speaker of the House. So we talked about how the new guy finally made it. The Republicans picked a new Speaker of the House of Representatives. That is the top Republican seat in the lower house of Congress. The Republicans control it for about 3 weeks now. They've been trying to find somebody new. Thank you, Diana, and been failing, right? So they finally picked a new guy, Mike Johnson from Louisiana. He's evangelical Christian. He's religious right. Basically, I mean, he is religious right. He's worked for a number of religious right organizations as a lawyer. He's a lot of things. He's an election denier as well. Thank you, Eileen. He's one of Trump's top allies when Trump was trying to steal the election, actually, in 2020. So a lot of concern there because he's now the head of the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives has a key role in the U.S. Constitution for certifying the election. So that has people very worried. Putting that aside, since we're talking about Ukraine, he said today that he does support further aid for Ukraine with conditions. He says he wants accountability and clear objectives from the White House. Now, I don't necessarily oppose any of that. I don't mind having accountability, meaning something's in place to make sure the weapons don't disappear or whatever. Fair enough. I don't have a problem with that in principle, right? Who does? Also, the a clear objectives from the White House, I don't have a problem with that either, actually, because I don't think Biden's been putting out clear objectives. Not at all. I've told you guys from the beginning, I think Biden with Ukraine has been kind of hedging his bets. He's afraid of pissing off Putin, frankly, just like he's afraid of pissing off Iran now. And frankly, by the way, France and Germany too, just as bad. Macron and Scholz, the two leaders of France and Germany, just as bad as Biden. But they're always afraid of pissing off Putin. So they always kind of, remember, they didn't want to give the first month of the war or so. Poland wanted to give fighter jets to Ukraine, the MiG fighter jets. And the US and Germany went, and it never happened. Later on, Poland may have shipped them anyway secretly, we think. Stinger missiles. I think Stingers maybe went initially. I don't know if Stingers went initially. Patriot missiles, Ukraine wanted forever. We didn't get them those till, was it January? I think we didn't get them the Patriots pretty much. It took, 9 months for us to even change our mind. Tanks, took us forever to agree to the tanks till January of this year. And then finally we got them the tanks a couple of weeks ago. The war's been going. At this point, right? At this point, we're all worried about where the war is even heading. And we're just getting them US tanks? Seriously? All the European tanks still haven't arrived? HIMARS? It took us months to even agree to get them the HIMARS rocket systems. And then we sent them 2. Thank you, Adventures. And then every month we gave them like 2 more. It just is ongoing BS. I'm trying to think why I was saying this. Oh, yeah. So I do not disagree. I think I'd like to hear a clear plan from the White House. I'd like to hear from Joe Biden. Does he want to win this war or not? Does he want Ukraine to win it or not? What the hell is his plan? Because I don't think he wants Ukraine to win the war. I think he wants a tie, and he wants Ukraine to end up losing territory because then he somehow thinks magically the war is going to go away, and it's not going to go away. Putin will continue to attack Ukraine next year and the year after, or maybe 5 years from now when he builds up his military. He's going after Ukraine again, and he's going to keep doing it. So anyway, it pisses me off. You guys know it pisses me off. All right. More news. Oh, yeah. So the wonderful Slovakia's new president, or prime minister, I should say, was it Robert Fico, I believe? Yes, Robert Fico. He ran on a platform. He just got elected just became prime minister, I think yesterday, was sort of held the office or sworn in, or however one does it in Slovakia. And he's anti-Ukraine and pro-Russian. Got elected, claimed he was going to cut off all military aid to Ukraine. He did. Today he announced he did cut off all military aid. He is going to continue humanitarian aid, but then he made a couple troubling statements, okay? He said, I will support zero military aid to Ukraine, an immediate halt to military operations. Listen to this. An immediate halt to military operations is the best solution we have for Ukraine. The EU should change from an arms supplier to a peacemaker. So he wants to stop the war where it is, meaning basically give Russia the territory they've already taken, right? He's pro-Russian. He also said he would not vote for any sanctions against Russia unless we see analyses of their impact on Slovakia. If there are to be sanctions that will harm us, like most sanctions have, I can see no reason to support them. So pretty much he's saying he's no longer going to support sanctions against Russia either. Thank you, Malayathos, for that. I appreciate that. A little bit more here. It's better that they, Ukraine and Russia, negotiate peace for 10 years, then kill each other for 10 years without any result. I don't even know what that means. Unfortunately, I think the translation was pretty... Thank you. I just saw somebody throw a gift up there. Oh, lizard person for the heart. Thank you for that. That's a weird translation. It's better that they negotiate peace for 10 years, then kill each other for 10 years without any result. Oh, he means even if they can't reach a peace deal, let's have a ceasefire. And if it takes them 10 years to negotiate and they still can't reach a deal, it's better that they spend 10 years not killing each other than 10 years killing each other, is what he's saying. He wants Ukraine to give up its land, basically. And then he said Russia has more territorial acquisitions than Ukraine, which I think was an insinuation that Russia's doing better in the war anyway. So what's the point? He's a real jerk. He's just the guy's a jerk. I mean, it's not good. It's not good for Ukraine. And finally, in terms of what aid Slovakia gave before, since February of last year, they've donated ammunition and weaponry, including their fleet of Soviet-era MiG-29 fighter jets, and they opened their borders for refugees. So, not nothing. The MiGs were a big deal. Anyway, very bad. So Denmark has pledged a military aid package to Ukraine worth 3.7 billion Danish kroner, or $520 million. It includes T-72 EA tanks, BMP-2 infantry fighting vehicles, artillery shells, drones, and small arms. The U.S. announced a $150 million aid package for Ukraine. The aid package includes air defense capabilities, artillery shells, anti-tank weapons, and other equipment needed to repel Russia. Russia is massively recruiting Cuban mercenaries to fight in Ukraine. This came from the Ukrainian National Resistance Center. They say that the Cubans have already been involved in fighting around Bakhmut and Kupiansk in eastern Ukraine. A couple more stories. Oh, this was interesting. So actually, I've got a picture of this. I'll show you. Ukraine unveiled a new exploding ground drone to carry bombs and anti-tank mines into battle. Basically, I'm going to show you this really quick. It's kind of funny. It's like a little bit of a replicator. It's a little drone on wheels, and it's meant to basically go under tanks. So here we go. You guys can see. It's cute. It looks like Rover, the guy that went to Mars. But you can see it's got two sort of are those what kind of ordnance is that, guys? For the military guys, it's taped on top. You guys can see strapped on top. So you can see it's a little thing. It is cute. Are those mortars? That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. So it's got the two mortars strapped on top, and it drives. It's cute, which is kind of sick. And it drives underneath tanks and explodes as a little robot. Now, this was their minister of digital transformation, the young guy who's really good, Call of Duty. The guy's like in his 30s. He's come up with this stuff from video games and everything else. He's brilliant, this guy. The unmanned vehicle named Rotel S or Honey Badger. Oh my God. He called it the Honey Badger. Oh God. You have to know the Honey Badger meme to know what this is. There is a wonderful meme on YouTube. Google it. And it's all you have to Google is Honey Badger don't care. Okay. Honey Badger don't care. And it's this gay guy basically doing a video about honey badger. I can't show you because TikTok will get pissed off because TikTok will recognize that I'm showing it. It is the funniest damn thing you've ever seen. This guy takes this nature show about honey badgers. Thank you, Pam. And he gets rid of the sound and he narrates it himself. And he narrates it about, oh my God, what's it doing? Ew, gross. It's the fun, but the refrain is honey badger don't care. Honey badger don't care. Like the fearless honey badger. I called the Ukrainians honey badger at the beginning of the war, I think. I seem to recall that. So calling it a honey badger, I guarantee you, because this was, thank you, lizard person, for the hat. I guarantee you this was that young Ukrainian minister who came up with this and called it that because of the memes online about the honey badger. Google it. I kid you not, it is the funniest damn thing you will ever see. Just Google honey badger don't care and look at the video. It is 3 minutes of hilarity. Absolutely fabulous. So it's called the honey badger, can carry up to 77 pounds at a maximum. Okay, I'm going to ask Callum here too. So Callum, or any of the other military folks, 77 pounds, which would be, I don't know, 30 kilograms, something like that, 30 kilos. How much of an explosion would that pack in terms of going under tanks and things like that? What do you think? Just waiting a second. Honey badger for speaker. But yeah, so that more than enough to disable it. Big boom. Okay. So that is a good. So everyone's agreeing. Okay, enough to disable the tank, probably. Okay, so that's good. All right, very good. So yeah, so we know it's enough to cause some problems to the Russian tank, which is good. Well, and again, getting under it, right? Now, in principle, I'm going to assume, in principle, underneath the Russian tanks isn't protected as much as on top because you don't really anticipate people getting underneath, right? Okay, Didar is saying the same thing. It's a heck of a lot. Okay, good. Well, that's good to hear. Good. Finally, they said the drone can run for 40 to 50 minutes at an average speed or up to 2 hours at a slower speed. Okay, interesting. A new poll shows trust in the Ukrainian government has increased. Around 73% of Ukrainians trust Zelensky. 54% trust the government overall. That's interesting. That's a hell of a difference. 54% trust the government, but 73% trust Zelensky. That's pretty good. Romania has finally installed the anti-drone system on its border. And oh yeah, even though I've gone a little long, as always, I want to read you this last story. It's from the Wall Street Journal. It's about Armenia. Very interesting. Traditional ally of Russia. Very upset because Russia didn't come to its aid when Azerbaijan basically took Nagorno-Karabakh, which is this disputed territory. Very complicated. Yet another crazy, complicated crisis. Okay. The Honey Badger rover, the actual name is Ratel S, like R-A-T, T as in Tom, E-L, and then space S as in Sam. Oh, yeah, I showed you the picture. Let me read you this from Wall Street Journal. So very interesting that basically traditional Russian allies are walking out on them. Listen to this. These events have essentially brought us to this is from the Armenian, where is this? I think this is the Armenian president. These events have essentially brought us to a decision that we need to diversify our relationships in the security sphere, and we are trying to do that now, the Armenian leader said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, or I should say Wall Street Journal quoting the interview. He added that because of this record, he doesn't see any advantages in the continuing presence of Russian military bases in Armenia. I mean, that's very interesting. Oh, Fico? Oh, that's interesting. So Fico is pronounced Fico in Slovak. Interesting. Okay, I will try to remember that. Yasu for 435 Tezera Azerbaijani president has repeatedly described most of Armenia, including the capital Yerevan, as historically Azerbaijani lands that should be recovered, even though he recently stated that Azerbaijan has no territorial claims on Armenia. Officials and state-controlled media in Baku, Azerbaijan, continue referring to most of Armenia as Western Azerbaijan A growing concern in Washington and European capitals is that Azerbaijan, with Turkish support and Russian complicity, may attempt to conquer all or parts of Armenia in the coming months, creating a land bridge between Azerbaijan and Turkey. A parallel worry is that Russia, whose state media and officials have begun a vitriolic campaign against Pashinyan. Who the hell's Pashinyan? Probably the president. May be planning a coup to oust the country's leader. So it's a freaking mess. It's a mess. And again, I like the fact that they're kicking the Russians out, but the Russians could just overthrow them and the Turks would help. Of course, Turkey being Turkey, more trouble from Turkey. Anyway, all right, that's it for the news. We will do questions in a second. I've picked the new auction items. We've got a lot of really cool new auction items. So what we do at the auctions is I've got very cool auctions I do over on my Discord community, discord.aravosis.com. And the auctions are cool stuff from Ukraine. Two reasons. One is to raise money for Ukraine. We send half the money. I send half the money from the auctions back to Ukraine. Vlad uses it for various things. I sent $200 this morning. $100 of it went for our drone program we're funding. Thank you, Scott. And Vlad said he's using $100 for another thing we're working on that we're going to announce at some point. Thank you, Scott. And the other half of the donations from the auctions will go to me because I do this full time and it helps me pay the bills. And I need to be able to pay the bills or I can't do this. So we do that. And I will do Anne's question really quick. Anne did a very lovely gift. Oh, thank you, Anne. Anne said, "You are so observant. I've been under the weather for a bit." Sorry. No, poor you. Very generous of you. Thank you for that. But I'm really sorry about that. All right. Well, hope you're feeling better, or hope you're feeling better now at least. And Super Hornet, thank you for the gift, and Sports Dad as well. So do I debate with viewers? Friendly and professionally, sure. I mean, not on camera, no. No, I wouldn't do that. But I sort of would take people's questions, and I'd love to disagree nicely if people are being nice. I have no problem with that. And the mods don't either. It's the people who are being kind of mean and nasty that, we don't like. Nobody likes mean and nasty. So the auctions. Yeah, so we've got a lot of new cool auction items. I've only put up a few of them so far, but really cool stuff. I will show you a few of them. I'm going to put up more of them tomorrow, but there's 3 up already. Some of them include, these are really neat. So these are Christmas ornaments painted by this artist we know in Ukraine. And these are great because they're 5-inch ornaments. I mean, they're cute. I don't even think this picture does justice. 5 inches is, 5 inches would be 12 centimeters. I mean, it's huge. On the back, it has a Ukrainian Christmas greeting that basically, what is it? Shaslivich, I think, which Svam, which I think means like happiness to you. And then the bottom is the name of the town. Vilznyoiki. Oh yeah, that's a hard time. That's a hard town. 2023 is the date. And that she made it. But what's nice about it, I mean, look at the other side. This is hand painted. I mean, look at the other side. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. They're plastic, which I think is frankly a good thing because they'd get destroyed otherwise. So they're plastic ornaments, but she hand painted them. I'll show you the other two. There's a lot of different ones. I'm going to put up new ones each week. This is one that has I think it's a Cossack, actually. I'm pretty sure that's a Ukrainian Cossack. Am I right, Ukrainian folks, that that's a Cossack? I think it is. And this one also has the happiness to you, the name of the town, 2023 on the back. Yeah. And you can see the bottom too. I mean, absolutely beautiful, this thing. Now, what I did is I included the white one. I've included two ornaments for the one auction because this ornament got crushed in the way by Ukrainian or American postal. We don't know. But you can see it's got a little Death Star. You can call it a Ukrainian Death Star if you want, but it's got a little Death Star indent on it. But honestly, I would put it on my tree like this and nobody's going to know. But I paired it up with the other one. A cool piece that allegedly is a piece of a T-72 tank from Ukraine. Whether it is or not, who knows, right? This was bought in Ukraine. You never know with this stuff, but kind of cool. Actually, the really nice thing I'm putting up, this is not up yet, but it's going up tomorrow, an Azov patch from Ukraine. Really nice. These are great. And these are the real patches. These are the actual patches they wear. This is new, though. What's kind of neat, it comes with, actually, Actually, Ashley, this is for you. It comes with a Velcro backing, so you can stitch the Velcro onto a shirt or a bag, and then attach it, which is kind of cool. Anyway, very cool. The Azov patch. People always like the Azov patches, but very cool. Just a couple more things, and then a couple more things. I'm not going to sort of go through all of these right now. Oh, another Ukrainian bracelet, very pretty, hand woven, but a really nice one. You can see the bottom, but it's very. I like the detail work. It's just very beautiful kind of detail work. Other Ukrainian bracelet, and actually, the last thing I'll show you. We've got a number of T-shirts that Vlad made for the. Thank you again for that, Anne. That was very sweet of you. We've got a number of T-shirts that Vlad made for the volunteers who are making the camouflage nets, because we've been raising money for the materials to make the camouflage nets for the Ukrainian military. And I'm going to show you this. We've got Vlad made shirts for the volunteers. They're various sizes, various colors. There's green and blue. Different sizes of each, though. In the auction, I've put what the sizes are, but they're really neat because it's like a camouflage shirt, right? One sleeve is regular, one sleeve is camo. The patch says it's like Muscovalnia Sotnia or something, which is like the camouflage 100, which is the nickname they gave for themselves for the volunteers making the nets. And then it says Harkovu Mir, which is the name of the charity in Ukraine. And then it shows like a spider and a spider web. But I love this. I think it's just a really cool designed shirt, with the camouflage sort of going across one sleeve, having it one knot. Anyway, very cool. So we've got a number of these, blue and green and different colors of each. So you've got to read very carefully. You've got to read very carefully which colors are in which design, which size. Okay. But check them out. They're very cool. Mir means peace. Exactly. Harkovu Mir. I say Kharkiv peace or Vlad says thank you, Kronos. The Ukrainians had decided, what's funny? Blame this on the Brits. I was telling Vlad early on. Oh, yeah. I was telling Vlad early on not to call it Kharkiv peace. I said, that's a stupid name. Or no, peace to Kharkiv. I said, peace for Kharkiv, maybe, or Kharkiv peace, but peace to Kharkiv. He said, we talked to a British guy who told us, oh no, you have to call it peace to Kharkiv. That makes the most sense in English. And I told Vlad, I said, I don't know about the UK, but in America, peace to Kharkiv isn't English. It doesn't even make sense. There's no sentence construction that you would say peace to Kharkiv. I almost have to do an English accent saying it. You know what I mean? I mean, English. I almost have to do a foreign accent say peace to Kharkiv, right? Thank you, Adam. So anyway, we blame the Brits for this. It should have been peace for Kharkiv or Kharkiv peace. Kharkiv peace would have been fine. Peace to Kharkiv? You guys would say that. Wow. You actually would say that? Peace to Kharkiv? Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, in American English, that makes no sense. Wow. Well, he's right for Britain. He's not right for America. That doesn't make sense in American English. Peace to Kharkiv? It's missing words. Peace to Kharkiv. What does peace to Kharkiv mean? I'm bringing peace to Kharkiv? I mean, what does it even mean, right? Oh, actually, don't get me into a discussion on British English versus American English, because, for example, we use things that they don't use anymore. So you could argue that some of our English is the original English. For example, they don't say have or gotten. We would say, I've gotten really tired of you guys lecturing me about British English. The Brits would say, what is it? I think you say the have, but you don't say gotten, right? You'd say, I've got really tired. That is because older English says gotten. It still stayed with us and the Brits got rid of it. So in that case, our English is correct. Not correct, but we've got the original English. Thank you very much. Some of our English. So Google that one about got. It's true. It's true. And they drive on the wrong side of the street as well. Thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you. Annie Cat has a question. Anyway, so lots of auctions over on the Discord. Check it out. I've only got 3 up so far. I'll have more up tomorrow, but lots of cool stuff. Annie Cat says, how far can Iran go without the U.S. doing anything about it? That's the question. I mean, that's the question. Iran itself cannot attack us, basically use their own force. If Iran uses its own forces to attack Israel, A, Israel may just respond to Iran, and B, the U.S. may respond. I don't know. I do. I worry this is Russia all over again. We wouldn't say peace to world. That literally sounds like you're Russian in English. If you say peace to world, peace to world. I am from Moscow. I mean, it literally, you'd have to say peace to the world. You wouldn't say peace to world. You're right. Thank you, Americans. I'm totally right on this one. No, I'm right. You know I'm right. You know I'm right. In American English, peace to world. Literally, it's John to headquarters. You'd say that. That's the only way you'd say it. John to headquarters, right? But it's like military speak or something. But actually, maybe we get that from the Brits originally with the to thing, right? Any case, Annie, how far can Iran go? I don't know, because I worry that no matter what happens, we're going to try to, thank you, Annie, no matter what happens, we're going to try to avoid conflict with Iran. So that Iran, I think, would have to either attack us directly, attack our troops, or B, we find intelligence that Iran told some of the militants, or whatever you want to call them, the terrorists in Syria, in Iraq, to attack the American troops, and we've got a smoking gun. Maybe. I think Biden is correct about worrying about a larger conflict, but I think we could lose Ukraine because Biden was worried about a larger conflict, and it wouldn't have been a wider conflict. Ukraine would have simply won the war at this point. So, but again, with Israel, there is much more of a presumption of aiding Israel than there was for Ukraine, though. Oh, that's funny. Malayathos says, my username is British English for melee, but I'm with John. Oh, that's funny, because Malayathos sounds Greek, me being Greek. The pipeline, there's no news on the pipeline. I mean, there were two pipelines, actually, like a data pipeline from Sweden to Estonia that was attacked, we believe, and a natural gas pipeline from Finland to Estonia, both of which seem to have been attacked by Russians, we believe. But they're still investigating. It may be a while, maybe a while. We are good on U.S. soil for now. Yes. Actually, the interesting thing, too, you'll note, when the head of Hamas, who lives in Qatar, when he was interviewed the other day, he remember that woman on Saudi Arabian TV who did just an amazing interview of him. He had criticized Iran and Hezbollah for not supporting them enough. And I saw another attack on Hezbollah today from somebody affiliated with Iran saying, or Iran or Hamas, saying that Hezbollah, which is the terrorist group in southern Lebanon, basically isn't helping enough. And I think this is one of the questions about the U.S. getting more involved. I think we're being careful because, hell, honestly, we could have told the Iranians, we know you did it. You attacked our troops, 12 times. People are dead. People are injured. And we've got the intercepts to prove you ordered it. And if you better stop Hezbollah from invading from the north, because if they invade, we're blowing the hell out of you. I mean, that's a possibility. That could explain why we haven't done anything publicly yet. And it could explain why Hezbollah is still holding back. And therefore, it explains why Biden's being careful. It's possible. But we don't know. And this is the problem with so much of this stuff. You don't really know if somebody's being weak or if somebody's doing something good behind the scenes they don't want to say publicly. No. Kep says, do you believe Russian claims to have shot down a couple of the attackums? No. Again, the problem is Russia lies about everything. So, they literally lie about everything. So until they show proof, I wouldn't believe a thing they say until they show proof, because they are habitual liars like nobody you've ever seen. You cannot trust their government. Zero that they say is true. It's just that's it. Well, I like this. Flat Earth, who's clearly a troll. Word has spread. Clearly somebody reading it off of a talking point. Word has spread. Couldn't you just hear a Russian translating that and saying, oh, that sounds very American. Word has spread. By the way, we would never say that, Flat Earth. Word has spread that Ukraine are really losing the war and Russia is winning. If Ukraine was really losing the war and Russia was winning, Putin's 3-day war wouldn't be in day 610. So there's that. So yeah, no, he clearly, I will not ban people who simply disagree. That person was clearly a troll, and he was clearly a foreign troll. Yeah. Rumor has it that he was trying to say rumor has it, which is also like, I mean, it's like something we said when I grew up, but now you wouldn't say something like the word is. Oh my God, my mother would say that. Am I dressing up for Halloween? Not yet, although I do have a wonderful costume for Sasha. I actually had I don't know if I've got it handy. I found it when I was looking through my photos. I had bought Sasha at a sort of a flea market, like a big street market. What do you call it? Where people sell stuff in front of their homes. You know what I mean? And the neighborhood does like a huge one. Actually, the extended neighborhood does a huge one. And I found a Star Trek outfit for Sasha. They had one for me, and then I found a dog one for her online. And it is hysterical. I'm just a little afraid that I'm not going to find it. If I find it in 2 seconds, I'll show you. But the problem is it zips from and back. So it's not terribly easy to, I don't know if I'm going to find it. This may be too hard to find. Yeah, it's going to be too hard to find. I did see it earlier today though, but it's very cute. And I've got one for Sasha too that's very cute, which is neat. Very cute. A Wookiee? Oh my God, a Wookiee would be cute. Yeah, no, she's a Star Trek. She's Spock. We're both, she's Spock. Hers is a Spock outfit. Tipping culture in America is ridiculous. It exists so that they don't have to pay them a real wage. In restaurants, for example, now some cities are changing that now, but in restaurants, for example, they don't pay them, they pay them $2 an hour still today. So they make their money by tips, which is absurd because the restaurant should just pay them. Well, now I went to some obnoxious bakery the other day, and it's a bakery attached to the restaurant. Thank you, Diana. And they're pissed off that Washington, D.C. passed a law that says now they've got to pay the waiters the minimum wage, which frankly makes sense. They should pay minimum wage, right? This restaurant that has a bakery behind it, I bought like a cookie. The cookie was already $3. And I was like, okay, that's a lot for a cookie, but you're apparently a very good restaurant. I'll try it. I buy the cookie and it rings up as $3.60. And I kind of went, what was that? So I walked over and looked, and the cookie was $3. So I walked over, I said, the cookie was $3. How is it $3.60? You know, taxes 8%, right? How is it $3.60? She points to the sign. There's literally a little sign this big on the counter. Thank you, Adam, that says, because of the new DC law requiring us to pay our staff $15 an hour, we are now putting a 10% surcharge on everything. And I was like, excuse me? Not to mention it's hidden on a card on the desk, so you don't see it. And most people don't know they did it. But they sell it it's total bait. We call it bait and switch in the law. It's a total fraud. They want you to think the cookie's $3, but you're paying $3.60 for it, which is a hell of a lot more. Total. And the best part was I told her to take it off my bill. I became my mother. I said, I'm not paying. Take it off. She goes, you already paid. I said, get your manager. You better cancel this off my credit card right now. Manager came out. Manager was nice, but not nice. Didn't want to talk about it. And took it off. And I told her, I said, this is really inappropriate. You're cheating people because most people don't realize you did that. And you know what? Make the cookie $3.30. Don't give me this BS of, oh, we have to add it on as a little surcharge. Why? Restaurants do it too. The restaurants aren't increasing the prices. They're just adding a secret 10% to your bill. And it's like, how about you just raise the prices? Total scam. Oh, they're going to pay the staff, and now they're trying to pass it along to us. But that's why there's tips in America. Now, I will say this. There's BS like tipping your taxi driver and tipping your Uber driver. And, you know, I didn't do it at first, and now I do it because I feel bad because basically the Uber guys, a lot of them aren't wealthy, so I tip them, right? But it's BS because, again, you shouldn't tip anybody for anything in principle unless somebody goes crazy helping you, then it's fine. But our tipping culture isn't, I'm helping you because you were so nice. Our tipping culture is, you have to. right? You have to give a waiter 15%. And by the way, that's also in America. 15% is the minimum unless they're terrible. And a lot of people think even if they're terrible, you got to give them 15%. But they don't pay them though. They don't pay them. Takeout, you're supposed to tip for delivery. And even for delivery, it's like, well, aren't they paid? Why should you tip? I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's 20. What's 20% now? What, the expected tip? No way. No way. I would never give 20%. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. No, they get 20% if they're fabulous. They don't get 20% just for being a normal waiter. That's ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. I mean, feel free. I don't mean that. I mean, feel free to give that if you want. But as far as an expectation, no way. No way. But in any case, it's absolute BS that they pay these guys $2 an hour for waiters and waitresses in restaurants. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, there you go. That's the whole thing with the, that is why somebody was asking, why do Americans like our tipping culture? That's why, now in France, they'll try to get you for going to a bathroom, for the lady that cleans the bathroom. France, they would have, which really drove me nuts. You'd go, I don't know if do they still do this in France? You'd go to a movie at the movie theater and there's somebody there with a flashlight to guide you to a seat. And now, of course, you can see all the seats. It's not a big deal. And you're supposed to give them like €1 or something. And I'm like, why? I didn't need you to find me a seat. I mean, it's crazy. There's like crazy stuff, Ugh. We do have a minimum wage, but it didn't apply to waiters. I don't know why. Maybe because they weren't full-time staff. I don't really know why it didn't apply to waiters or serving staff, but it didn't. Ridiculous. Anyway, more questions. We don't know anything more about the hospital bombing. There's really just no other news. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Most of the experts think it was the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the Palestinian terrorists, whose rocket went out of control and bombed their own hospital. And, if you can't accept that, then I've got a stolen election to sell you and a vaccine that'll turn you into a zombie. You either accept the facts or you don't. But that's where the facts are right now. Anyway. Hey, Beach. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I know, chilling. That's true, Evie. We could just chill and talk about life. Well, we could, again, if there's any more questions, we could do a few more questions now. And where does the New York Times say that? The New York Times put out an apology, actually. Thank you, Happy Beach. The New York Times itself put out an apology. I saw Arik did his little thread. He doesn't speak for the New York Times. He speaks for his little group there. But the New York Times itself put out an actual apology from the editors. So, my first pet was a wonderful little dog, a wonderful little mud of a dog. It was fabulous. We loved her. Thank you, JR. Evie, someday I'll check out Stellaris. It's not happening soon though, because I'm still working on the 100. I'm not playing computer games right now that much. So your first pet was a pig. That's what Callum's first girlfriend said about him. Does the U.S. have any leverage over Slovakia? I don't know. I mean, they're a member of NATO and they're a member of the EU. I would think there's some leverage, I mean, for example, if Slovakia was getting rid of its MiGs, they must have you'd think they got jets from the U.S. You would think, right? I mean, they got rid of their MiGs. It goes to whatever, right? You'd think. And if they're getting MiGs, they need U.S. parts and all of that. So I don't know. I mean, typically the U.S. has some leverage because of our military relationship with these guys. So that will be an interesting question. But, which country has the most powerful nukes? It doesn't really matter. I mean, Russia and America. Now, I will say this. I saw something the other day that said that even though the U.S. has Russians have more nukes, the U.S. has better nukes. But when it comes down to it, Russia can destroy us. We can destroy Russia very easily. Meaning, Russia attacks us with nukes. We've got more than enough to destroy them in response. We attack Russia with nukes. They've got more than enough to attack us in response, which is why I don't think it's ever going to happen. So how can we know Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons? That's a concern. Yeah. I mean, that's a concern. We don't think they do, but we're not certain. Do I think we'll be attacked on U.S. soil? We're not going to get nuked. There's nobody to nuke us. There might be terrorism. That's a possibility. No, Josh. I think that's good that you side with both sides on certain things. That's a sign of a healthy mind. I think like, that you're not just going to be partisan one way or the other because it's the party line. So that's good. As long as I just ask people to think about stuff and look at the facts, and don't get pissed off if the facts go the other way. You know what I mean? But what else, guys? Well, that's an interesting question. Well, Kilo says NATO has 3 times the number of nukes, but do we though? I mean, I know you've got French and British nukes, but I don't know how much they've got. How many nuclear weapons do the French and the Brits have? Also, you get into a weird issue of how many we've got overall, how many are like active, or I forget what the term is. Yeah, we don't have 3 times the nukes of the Russians. There's no way. Actually, of course we don't, because the Russians have more than us. The Russians have more than the Americans, and it's not like the Brits and the French have more than us. Yeah, they don't have 3 times. There's no way, Kilo. There's no way. Yeah. Unless you were talking about something else, but not of nukes. Maybe he was talking about something else. Zoha says, do you think a 1967 borders 2-state solution is realistic? I was talking to a friend about this today who's very up on this stuff. And, you start to look at the various peace plans in the Middle East, and they're horrific, meaning they're so detailed. But they're detailed. Let me see if if I have one, I can show you one of the maps. They're horrific in the sense of you'll have a headache looking at this map, trying to figure out, is this a good map or a bad map as proposals go? It's just like, oh. Hold on, I'll show you. Sure, from Thomas Puello, who's very good. He did a number of really interesting essays during COVID. He's just a very good sort of independent thinker on these things, and has done a number of interesting essays about the Middle East as well. But let me see if I can find. Hang on. I know the picture I'm looking for. I just don't know. I mean, here's one. Oh, wait, is this the... Oh, shoot. His thing is... Oh, come on. One sec. I'm gonna try to save a couple images here. Oops. Come on, guys. Hold on. If I can find this. If not, I won't. But because I'm looking at his post right now to find... Oh, come on, guys. To find the maps, but these maps of the various proposals are insane in terms of the detail and this little village, but not that little village. And I find it impossible to look at and figure out like what's good and what isn't. Shoot, I'm not going to be able to find this easily. I know that what I'm looking for because it lays out A, B, and C. Oh, if I can find it, come on. Hello. Otherwise, I will pull this up another day. Oh, this is it. Oh, it's the very top of the map, I think. Yeah, hang on a second. Save in photos. No. Yeah, I'm not going to find it. I think maybe it's in a different post of his. Oh, no, this is it. Oh, this is it. Okay, hold on. I'm going to see if this is, it may be just too hard to even show you guys for you to see kind of like how crazy this is. I believe this was one of the plans they had with areas A, B, and C. The light color areas are Palestinian. The blue areas Israeli. But I mean, look at this division here. So blue Palestinian, light color areas are Israeli. This is the West Bank. I mean, it's a freaking mess of hodgepodge. Look at this. I mean, it looks like somebody gerrymandered it in terms of American politics. I'm not convinced people are serious about peace. I don't think Netanyahu from Israel, I never thought he was serious about peace. Too many Israeli governments let the settlers go crazy in the West Bank, and I think that was horrible. And the settlers, I think, are kind of nuts. Unfortunately, Biden called them extremists, which he's right. Too many of the Palestinians or whoever, thank you, Pesky, their representatives don't want peace either. And, it's like, okay, you're not going to get it, right? It's just going to keep going. And frankly, a lot of the people supporting the Palestinians, I'm sorry, but Super Hornet, I think their position doesn't help peace either. If you're going to sit here and say Israel's evil and that's why they do this, then you don't understand the conflict and you're never going to be able to solve it. Thank you, Danan. Or frankly, that all Palestinians are terrorists, then you don't understand the conflict. I think there's too much bad faith going. Exactly. Frank Thomas says too many bad faith actors. I think there is. I think there's too many bad faith actors on both sides, and you've got too much baggage at this point, too much history. Thank you, Joe. And you'll see, frankly, a lot of them are gone now. But the comments we get earlier in the show from everybody going, well, Israel did this, or Palestine did this, or Palestinians did this. And they love to look at the latest little thing, right? Well, Israel occupied. Yeah, Israel did occupy. When you invaded and tried to wipe them off the map, you then lost and they occupied some of your land. That's what happens, FAFO. I mean, but also true. The Arabs invaded because the UN said Israel was going to be established on their land. They say their land. I mean, but the Israelis say, well, guess whose land it was in the beginning? Ours. Like several thousand years ago, the Arabs didn't exist until whatever, 700 or whatever the hell it was. It just goes back and forth and back. You can always find some BS reason to say, well, I was first. You did the first bad thing. No, you didn't. There was always somebody who did the first bad things, So anyway, that's what worries me. And the other problem is, this situation with Hamas and Gaza, it's bad for another reason, guys. Because if you're Israeli, you're going to look at this and go, well, some Israelis probably, we're going to truly make them independent and go hands off when they elected terrorists to the parliament and the terrorists took over Gaza and nobody did anything about it. And now there's literally a terrorist organization that's been the government of Gaza for 16 years or 17 years or whatever the hell it is. Well, why the hell would we want a Palestinian state on our border if the recent experiment, we did something similar and the freaking terrorists took over and nobody did anything about it? If you're Israel, you say, screw it. Potentially. This is my concern, though. I mean, now that's interesting. Callum says Ireland did the same thing, though. That's interesting. The IRA ran Ireland for years. That's an interesting. It'd be fascinating to get somebody who knows both conflicts intimately, if you can find someone, A, who's pretty objective, and B, knows both conflicts intimately, to sort of extrapolate how would you take sort of the peace that was established in Ireland or Northern Ireland with what's going on in the Middle East. But you've got to have people on both sides that want peace. And the terrorism thing's a problem, though. Like I said, you'd literally have to have none of these terrorists in. Oh, hey, Andrew. You'd have to have none of the terrorists playing games in the occupied territories. Oh, there you go. That's what that. Yeah, and I don't know nearly enough about the troubles, meaning the sort of the terrorism or the IRA and all that kind of stuff, to be able to compare the two. But Andrew, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, well, and I would say not even any comparison, any lessons to be learned from how you were able to take this intractable conflict with terror, with so much awful terrorism, and able to reach peace. I sure have that, but you'd also have to have it. Well, we could have you on to talk about that at some point. I wouldn't mind doing that. Not tonight because it's already getting late, but it'd be interesting to have you on just to talk a little bit about the history of it and how did they actually make peace, considering how bad it was, Oh, and I got my COVID shot yesterday, and yesterday was feeling a little this morning was feeling very bad. Took a nap, feeling better. I mean, it's already late. I'm going to quit now, but it just hit me again. I can tell I suddenly feel like I've got a little bit of a flu or something. Ooh. It's the Moderna shot. And I will say that Moderna shot always gives me a little bit of a yeah, the previous Moderna did that too for me. The other one's not so bad. The Moderna one definitely made me feel sick. Yeah, but I'm glad to get it. Obviously, what do you do? You've got to, you got to get the shot. I mean, I say you've got to get the shot. So, Anyway, sorry. Anthony is asking, UK ground drone. They picked up a landmine, put it on the drone, and drove it under the Russian tanks. UK ground drone. They pick up a landmine, put it on the drone, and drive it under the Russian tank. Anthony, I'm not sure what you're getting at here. Are you describing something the UK does that could be similar to what the Ukrainians are doing? Oh, maybe you're saying Ukrainian ground drone. Did you mean that to be Ukrainian for UK? But they could potentially put a drone on it. I mean, put a mine on it. Yeah, they could, right? And then drive the mine under the tank if that's what you're saying. I'm not sure if that's what you meant. Feel free to jump in and let me know if that's what you meant. And thank you for that, by the way, for the super chat. That's okay. That's what he means. Yeah. Why not? I mean, as long as it's under, we said 30 kilos or 70 pounds or whatever it is, right? They can put anything on there, and it's driving on the ground. It doesn't have to fly, So yeah. I think there's a couple. No, they're not just offering Moderna. They were offering a couple of them. Thank you, Terrence, because the local pharmacies here were offering the Pfizer one. They weren't offering the Moderna one. No, my doctor's office just happened to have it and said, "You want it?" I was like, "Sure." Oh, Callum says can't really drive a mine under the tank. Mine. Oh, under the tank. The mine needs to be half secured to the ground. Interesting. Meaning to set it off or something because of the pressure you got to put on it, or what? What's the I'll do the news summary in a second, but just seeing what Callum is saying about. I love when Callum gives us the details. The pressure. Okay, yeah, the pressure. Okay. So you can't just set it off with an explosion or something, or with some there. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. So yeah, it would be difficult to actually set off the mine is the problem. Oh, that's scary, Chris. Huh. Anyway. All right. Weird. All right. Let me do a quick summary of the news, guys, we covered, and then we're going to call it quits for tonight, and I'm going to have dinner. We'll start with Israel. Sky News' Middle Eastern correspondent says that the Israelis had an incursion into Ukraine last night. The Israelis had an incursion into Gaza last night. Some terrorist hunting, some surveillance, and they're out now, possibly 1,000 soldiers. Hamas delegation visited Moscow today. American troops were attacked at least 12 times in Iraq and 4 times in Syria in the past week by Iran-affiliated groups. Speaking at the United Nations, Iran issued another threat against the United States that if Israel keeps attacking Hamas, they're going to get involved, which let's see. I mean, they may use their surrogates, but let's see. European Union leaders are set to call for the establishment of humanitarian corridors and pauses to deliver aid to Gaza. Sky News says another aid convoy has entered the Rafah crossing in southern Gaza, but we are still waiting to see if it's able to get through. It's being inspected. In Ukraine, it's day 610 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. We've collected basically we need another $194 to finish our drone fundraiser. We are raising money for a drone training school in Ukraine for FPV drones. And we need a couple drones. We need some motors. We need some controllers. And the school, Vlad knows the folks at the school. They reached out to him. And we've got almost all the money. They need 1,971. We need another 194. If you want to help, you can donate via Vlad's PayPal right there. Or you guys can find Vlad's PayPal, go to my profile, click the Linktree link, go through, and the very top item that comes up will give you Vlad's PayPal info. You'll then need to enter your PayPal and then type in Vlad's info because he doesn't have a link or anything. 100% of the money will go towards the drone program. We're not taking any of it. All right, a little bit more. The new guy named as speaker, Mike Johnson, says that he does support further aid to Ukraine with clear accountability and clear objectives. Ukrainian pilots are now training with Arizona National Guard on F-16s. The Guardian says Slovakia's new populist prime minister has in fact cut off aid to Ukraine. Denmark has pledged a military aid package to Ukraine of $520 million. The U.S. has announced another $150 million aid package. Russia is massively recruiting Cuban mercenaries to fight in Ukraine. Ukraine unveiled a new exploding ground drone designed to carry bombs and anti-tank mines. Actually, the article says it's anti-tank mines, Callum. That's interesting. Ukraine unveiled a new exploding ground drone designed to carry bombs and anti-tank mines into battle against Russia. And the article is based on what the minister himself said. So who knows? Very interesting. The new poll shows trust in the government in Ukraine has increased after Russia's invasion. 73% of the people trust Zelensky. Only 54% trust the government. Romania has already installed an anti-drone system at the border with Ukraine to basically stop Russian drones from coming in. And the Wall Street Journal reports that Armenia is pulling further away from Russia and now threatening to kick out Russian military bases, which could lead Russia to have a coup and overthrow the government. Samantha has a super chat comment, I guess. Hi, John, from me and my cat. And Callie, your cat. Oh, Callie, that's cute for cat. Thank you for everything you do. You've calmed my anxiety during a lot of things. Well, I hope so. I mean, and again, I don't want to sort of overplay this about you should be so calm about it because, especially in the Middle East, there is the possibility of a bigger war. There is. But, I don't think people should necessarily jump to terrifying conclusions. You know what I mean? All right, guys, I'm going to sign off because, as I said, my flu shot is kicking in or my COVID shot, and I'm definitely feeling kind of like, and it's already been an hour and a half, but I'm definitely feeling a bit woozy here. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for the gifts tonight. You guys were very nice. I noticed a lot of the super chats on YouTube as well. Thank you guys for that. And obviously a lot of you were very generous on TikTok too. So thank you all of you guys. And I'll see you tomorrow, right? So bright and late, 6 p.m. Eastern time US tomorrow night. Join me here and we'll talk again Friday night about the latest news. And remember, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time US, I will do my usual coffee talk for the TikTok subscribers and all the other monthly subscribers, YouTube, Twitch, Ko-fi, Discord. I will be broadcasting live on Discord and on TikTok. So depending which one you subscribe on, if it's TikTok, come to TikTok. All the other ones go to Discord. And we have a special show on Saturday mornings for you guys. So don't forget. All right, guys. I'm going to go take a seat of Minifin and make some dinner. All right. Good night, guys. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.